MTC. Unit 14, 2, No analysis. Comma. Deep-fried foods are tastier than bland foods, and children and adults develop a taste for such foods. Fatty foods cause the brain to release oxytocin, a powerful hormone with a calming, anti-stress, and relaxing influence, said to be the opposite of adrenaline, into the bloodstream, hence the term comfort foods. We may even be genetically programmed to eat too much. For thousands of years, food was very scarce. Food, along with salt, carbs, and fat, was hard to get, and the more you got, the better. All of these things are necessary nutrients in the human diet, and when their availability was limited, you could never get too much. People also had to hunt down animals or gather plants for their food, and that took a lot of calories. It's different these days. We have food at every turn, lots of those fast food places and grocery stores with carry-out food. But that ingrained caveman mentality says that we can't ever get too much to eat. So craving for unhealthy food may actually be our body's attempt to stay healthy. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 01. Comma. When self-handicapping, you're engaging in behavior that you know will harm your chances of succeeding. You know that you won't do as well on the test if you go out the night before, but you do it anyway. Why would anyone intentionally harm their chances of success? Well, here's a possible answer. Say that you do study hard. You go to bed at a decent time and get 8 hours of sleep. 8. Then you take the maths test, but don't do well, you only get a C. C. What can you conclude about yourself? Probably that you're just not good at maths, which is a pretty hard blow to your self-esteem. But if you self-handicap, you'll never be in this position because you're creating a reason for your failure. You were bound to get a C, you can tell yourself, because you went out till 1 a.m. 1 C. That C doesn't mean that you're bad at maths, it just means that you like to party. C. Self-handicapping seems like a paradox, because people are deliberately harming their chances of success. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 02. Comma. Early in the term, our art professor projected an image of a monk, his back to the viewer, standing on the shore, looking off into a blue sea and an enormous sky. The professor asked the class, "What do you see?" The darkened auditorium was silent. We looked and thought as hard as possible to unearth the hidden meaning, but came up with nothing. We must have missed it. With dramatic exasperation she answered her own question, "It's a painting of a monk. His back is to us. He is standing near the shore. There's a blue sea and enormous sky. Why didn't we see it?" So as not to bias us, she'd posed the question without revealing the artist or title of the work. In fact, it was Caspar David Friedrich's The Monk by the Sea. Caspar David Friedrich, The Monk by the Sea. To better understand your world, consciously acknowledge what you actually see rather than guess at what you think you are supposed to see. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 03. Comma. Even companies that sell physical products to make profit are forced by their boards and investors to reconsider their underlying motives and to collect as much data as possible from consumers. Supermarkets no longer make all their money selling their produce and manufactured goods. They give you loyalty cards with which they track your purchasing behaviors precisely. Then supermarkets sell this purchasing behavior to marketing analytics companies. The marketing analytics companies perform machine learning procedures, slicing the data in new ways, and resell behavioral data back to product manufacturers as marketing insights. When data and machine learning become currencies of value in a capitalist system, then every company's natural tendency is to maximize its ability to conduct surveillance on its own customers because the customers are themselves the new value creation devices. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 04. Comma. In the modern world, we look for certainty in uncertain places. We search for order in chaos, the right answer in ambiguity, and conviction in complexity. We spend far more time and effort on trying to control the world, best-selling writer Yuval Noah Harari says, than on trying to understand it. Yuval Noah Harari. We look for the easy-to-follow formula. Over time, we lose our ability to interact with the unknown. Our approach reminds me of the classic story of the drunk man searching for his keys under a street lamp at night. He knows he lost his keys somewhere on the dark side of the street but looks for them underneath the lamp, because that's where the light is. Our yearning for certainty leads us to pursue seemingly safe solutions by looking for our keys under street lamps. Instead of taking the risky walk into the dark, we stay within our current state, however inferior it may be. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 05. Comma. A recent study shows that dogs appear to form mental images of people's faces. Scientists placed 28 dogs in front of a computer monitor blocked by an opaque screen, then played a recording of the dog's human guardian or a stranger saying the dog's name 5 times through speakers in the monitor. 5. Finally, the screen was removed to reveal either the face of the dog's human companion or a stranger's face. The dog's reactions were videotaped. Naturally, the dogs were attentive to the sound of their name, and they typically stared about 6 seconds at the face after the screen was removed. 6. But they spent significantly more time gazing at a strange face after they had heard the familiar voice of their guardian. That they paused for an extra second or two suggests that they realized something was wrong. The conclusion drawn is that dogs form a picture in their mind, and that they can think about it and make predictions based on that picture. And, like us, they are puzzled when what they see or hear doesn't match what they were expecting. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 06. Comma. Sociologists have proven that people bring their own views and values to the culture they encounter. Books, TV programs, movies, and music may affect everyone, but they affect different people in different ways. TV. In a study, Neil Vidmer and Milton Rokiak showed episodes of the sitcom All in the Family to viewers with a range of different views on race. Neil Vidmer, Milton Rokiak, All in the Family. The show centers on a character named Archie Bunker, an intolerant bigot who often gets into fights with his more progressive family members. Archie Bunker. Vidmer and Rokiak found that viewers who didn't share Archie Bunker's views thought the show was very funny in the way it made fun of Archie's absurd racism. In fact, this was the producer's intention. Vidmer Rokiak Archie Bunker Archie. On the other hand, though, viewers who were themselves bigots thought Archie Bunker was the hero of the show and that the producers meant to make fun of his foolish family. Archie Bunker. This demonstrates why it's a mistake to assume that a certain cultural product will have the same effect on everyone. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 07. Comma. The availability heuristic refers to a common mistake that our brains make by assuming that the instances or examples that come to mind easily are also the most important or prevalent. It shows that we make our decisions based on the recency of events. We often misjudge the frequency and magnitude of the events that have happened recently because of the limitations of our memories. According to Harvard professor Max Bazerman, managers conducting performance appraisals often fall victim to the availability heuristic. Harvard, Max Bazerman. The recency of events highly influences a supervisor's opinion during performance appraisals. Managers give more weight to performance during the 3 months prior to the evaluation than to the previous 9 months of the evaluation period because the recent instances dominate their memories. 9.3. The availability heuristic is influenced by the ease of recall or retrievability of information of some event. Ease of recall suggests that if something is more easily recalled in your memory, you think that it will occur with a high probability. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 08. Comma. Nothing happens immediately, so in the beginning we can't see any results from our practice. This is like the example of the man who tries to make fire by rubbing two sticks of wood together. He says to himself, "They say there's fire here," and he begins rubbing energetically. He rubs on and on, but he's very impatient. He wants to have that fire, but the fire doesn't come. So he gets discouraged and stops to rest for a while. Then he starts again, but the going is slow, so he rests again. By then the heat has disappeared, he didn't keep at it long enough. He rubs and rubs until he gets tired and then he stops altogether. Not only is he tired, but he becomes more and more discouraged until he gives up completely. There's no fire here. Actually, he was doing the work, but there wasn't enough heat to start a fire. The fire was there all the time, but he didn't carry on to the end. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, No 09. Comma. The growing field of genetics is showing us what many scientists have suspected for years: foods can immediately influence the genetic blueprint. This information helps us better understand that genes are under our control and not something we must obey. Consider identical twins, both individuals are given the same genes. In midlife, one twin develops cancer, and the other lives a long healthy life without cancer. A specific gene instructed one twin to develop cancer, but in the other the same gene did not initiate the disease. One possibility is that the healthy twin had a diet that turned off the cancer gene, the same gene that instructed the other person to get sick. For many years, scientists have recognized other environmental factors, such as chemical toxins, tobacco for example, can contribute to cancer through their actions on genes. The notion that food has a specific influence on gene expression is relatively new. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, Number 10. Comma. Thomas Edison was indeed a creative genius, but it was not until he discovered some of the principles of marketing that he found increased success. Thomas Edison. One of his first inventions was, although much needed, a failure. In 1869, he created and patented an electronic vote recorder, which recorded and totaled the votes in the Massachusetts state legislature faster than the chamber's old manual system. 1869, Massachusetts. To Edison's astonishment, it failed. Edison had not taken into account legislators' habits. Edison. They didn't like to vote quickly and efficiently. They liked to lobby their fellow legislators as voting took place. Edison had a great idea, but he completely misunderstood the needs of his customers. Edison. He learned from his failure the relationship between invention and marketing. Edison learned that marketing and invention must be integrated. Edison. Anything that won't sell, I don't want to invent, he said. Its sale is proof of utility, and utility is success. He realized he needed to put the customer's needs first and tailor his thinking accordingly. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, Number 11. Comma. Attitude has been conceptualized into four main components. Affective, feelings of liking or disliking; cognitive, beliefs and evaluation of those beliefs; behavioral intention, a statement of how one would behave in a certain situation; and behavior. Public attitudes toward a wildlife species and its management are generated based on the interaction of those components. In forming our attitudes toward wolves, people strive to keep their affective components of attitude consistent with their cognitive component. For example, I could dislike wolves. I believe they have killed people, cognitive belief, and having people killed is of course bad. Evaluation of belief. The behavioral intention that could result from this is to support a wolf control program, and actual behavior may be a history of shooting wolves. In this example, all aspects of attitude are consistent with each other, producing a negative overall attitude toward wolves. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, number 12. Comma. If you want to use the inclined plane to help you move an object, and who wouldn't, then you have to move the object over a longer distance to get to the desired height than if you had started from directly below and moved upward. This is probably already clear to you from a lifetime of stair climbing. Consider all the stairs you climb compared to the actual height you reach from where you started. This height is always less than the distance you climbed in stairs. In other words, more distance in stairs is traded for less force to reach the intended height. Now, if we were to pass on the stairs altogether and simply climb straight up to your destination, from directly below it, it would be a shorter climb for sure, but the needed force to do so would be greater. Therefore, we have stairs in our homes rather than ladders. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, number 13. Comma. As entrepreneur Derek Sivers put it, the first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. Derek Sivers. If you were sitting with 7 other people and 6 group members picked the wrong answer, but the remaining one chose the correct answer, conformity dropped dramatically. 7. The presence of a supporting partner depleted the majority of much of its pressure, Ash wrote. Ash. Merely knowing that you're not the only resistor makes it substantially easier to reject the crowd. Emotional strength can be found even in small numbers. In the words of Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful citizens can change the world, indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. To feel that you're not alone, you don't need a whole crowd to join you. Research by Sijal Barsada and Hakan Ashslik shows that in business and government organizations, just having one friend is enough to significantly decrease loneliness. Sijal Barsada Hakan Ashslik. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, number 14. Comma. At the pharmaceutical giant Merck, CEO Kenneth Frazier decided to motivate his executives to take a more active role in leading innovation and change. Merck CEO Kenneth Frazier. He asked them to do something radical, generate ideas that would put Merck out of business. Merck. For the next 2 hours, the executives worked in groups, pretending to be one of Merck's top competitors. Merck. Energy soared as they developed ideas for drugs that would crush theirs and key markets they had missed. Then, their challenge was to reverse their roles and figure out how to defend against these threats. This kill the company exercise is powerful because it reframes a gain-framed activity in terms of losses. When deliberating about innovation opportunities, the leaders weren't inclined to take risks. When they considered how their competitors could put them out of business, they realized that it was a risk not to innovate. The urgency of innovation was apparent. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, number 15. Comma. The whole history of mathematics is one long sequence of taking the best ideas of the moment and finding new extensions, variations, and applications. Our lives today are totally different from the lives of people 300 years ago, mostly owing to scientific and technological innovations that required the insights of calculus. 300. Isaac Newton and Gottfried von Leibniz independently discovered calculus in the last half of the 17th century. Isaac Newton Gottfried von Leibniz, 17. But a study of the history reveals that mathematicians had thought of all the essential elements of calculus before Newton or Leibniz came along. Newton-Leibniz. Newton himself acknowledged this flowing reality when he wrote, "If I have seen farther than others it is because I have stood on the shoulders of giants." Newton. Newton and Leibniz came up with their brilliant insight at essentially the same time because it was not a huge leap from what was already known. Newton-Leibniz. All creative people, even ones who are considered geniuses, start as non-geniuses and take baby steps from there. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. Unit 14, 2, Number 16. Comma. Sometimes a person is acclaimed as the greatest because there is little basis for comparison. For example, violinist Jan Kubelik was acclaimed as the greatest during his first tour of the United States, but when impresario Sol Hurok brought him back to the United States in 1923, several people thought that he had slipped a little. Jan Kubelik, 1923 Sol Hurok. However, Sol Elman, the father of violinist Misha Elman, thought differently. Misha Elman Sol Elman. He said, "My dear friends, Kubelik played the Paganini concerto tonight as splendidly as ever he did. Kubelik Paganini. Today you have a different standard. You have Elman, Heifetz, and the rest. Elman, Heifetz. All of you have developed and grown in artistry, technique, and, above all, in knowledge and appreciation. The point is, you know more, not that Kubelik plays less well.